Let's play some hockey. Tonight.
Energetic, passionate, and savvy. Gouche Live. Brought to you by the good people at the Hockey News and Sports Illustrated. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the Gouche.
Welcome back to Gouche Overtime. Yes, it is. Reason why we're having this expansion update. Jordan has been watching the internet fully, talking with everybody, understanding what's going on. Yes, he's on vacation, guys. Yes, he is. And nobody be concerned. He's on fresh water. He is not out in the ocean where he could be eaten by a shark. Thank God we won't lose him. We need him. Hey, listen, Jordan's been going through everything. He's been pulling some stuff up. It's very interesting. This is a very interesting time. And you know what? You're on Gouche Live. Brought to you by those good people, Hockey News and Sports Illustrated. And we have Stephen Ellis tomorrow. Do not forget at 4 o'clock, it will be the entry draft. Holy God, we just went from the expansion draft. Get rid of that. Now we're on to the entry draft, and we will have that all at 4 o'clock, and he'll be giving us his tips for 8 o'clock at night. We're pretty excited about it. Hey, listen, let's get right into it. Ladies and gentlemen, all the way from Victoria, BC, the Jordan Meister.
Hey, Gooch.
I hear you're in your swimsuit.
I am. Brad, for this, I'm going full steam down to the lake and jumping right in. So,
well, you should go jump in a lake. Is it the fact that you've got a one piece?
I do not. So,
rumors are that it's a Speedo.
Probably better that's not. But I mean, it might come out at some point.
Where do you hold your wallet? All right, listen, let's get right into it. You know what? Really cool is James Glubine is going to come up a little bit later on. I still have to get lucky because when he hears what's going on with the Hyman story, I just can't wait to have his energy and his. Well, we're going to have to absolutely just probably do some bleeps because the Toronto Maple Leafs lose Hyman, it's going to be probably a day in mourning. Let's talk about it. It was a pretty interesting expansion draft. It's not done. There are deals that are coming out afterwards. We know that's probably going to take maybe 12 days before it flushes itself out. But right now with Donskoy, Gjord, Elberle is possibly the first line if they stay there. Though we've heard that is it Gjord? How do you say his last name?
Yanni Gourde.
Yanni Gourde. There's a possibility he is injured and won't start the season. Still a pretty good line if you can think about it. And then if you go to defense, Adam Larsson, Jamie Oleksiak, and of course you've got the tandem, if in fact he's going to still be there, Mark Giordano. I like that one. And then Vince Dunn. Talk to us about any of the situations on the defense and the forward that you're surprised at right now.
Yeah, I mean, this roster's been set, and even though I put Giordano and Dunn in my lineup, there's no guarantee that they'll still be there because right now there's a couple of teams that are asking for Giordano and for Vince Dunn. The Rangers are one of them. I think if either one's going to move, it'll be Vince Dunn just because like the Giordano asking price is way too much. Apparently, there's a couple of deals that involve a couple like first round pick. Another prospect for Giordano who's 36, 37 now. It's just tough to justify giving up that much for, what could be a 1-year player.
Yeah, but think about it too, Mark Giordano. His salary is $6.75 million for the 21-22 season for 37. Yes, he's a UFA next year, but wow, that's a lot on a cap space.
Yeah, and a lot of these teams, that's kind of the trend right now. Teams are starting to give up salary cap. We saw what Philly did today with Shane Gostisbehere, and then a couple weeks ago, the Islanders did the Andrew Ladd trade as well. So I think the teams are in a rush right now to try and shed as much cap space as possible.
All right, we've got other notables. When you look at the defensive core that they've put together, again, the caveat is they may not all be there when the season starts, but certainly one of my buddies a little annoyed that the Boston Bruins gave up Jeremy Lazone. He's only $850,000. He's going to be an RFA next year, but he really liked what he brought to the team. And again, he can step on. He's got some experience in the National Hockey League.
Yeah, and even some of these guys, even though they might not be household names, these are still good players, and a lot of them are kind of up and comers too. So a lot of people were kind of criticizing some of the Kraken's picks yesterday, And a lot of people have to remember that they need to fill a bottom six as well as their top six forwards. Like
Right.
you're not going to be able to always get the Voracek or the Ovechkin who is left unprotected as well.
Yeah,
So
Landeskog and
yeah,
well, the Curry Price, we knew why he wasn't available. Jamie Oleksiak from Dallas, I like that. If they can get him signed, he's 28. I think he's at the prime.
he's 6'7".
Sorry?
He's 6'7".
I know. Could you imagine him in Winnipeg with Stanley? I think he's 6'8". God, you couldn't even see over. You couldn't see the goal from the other side of it.
Arm length apart, they felt they take up the whole rink.
You can't get across. And then you got Adam Larson, who we know has signed a 4-year, $16 million. Again, 28. They've got outside of Mark Giordano, they've got a young, dynamic defensive core with Vince Dunn again at 24. I know he's an RFA, but if they can get them signed without any trades, you got 4 very quality top defensemen to start the league.
Yeah, and this is going to be a good hockey team. Even like kind of moving on to the forwards, I don't love the forward group, but I mean it's serviceable for a little bit. They need someone who can score goals, and Jordan Eberle, he had a slow year last year. A couple of those guys, and then just you don't know where the goals are going to come from. Someone needs to be able to do it, and I just don't know if there's anyone on the roster right now who can do that.
Well, they've got about $41 million to play in cap space. I'm sure they'll find somebody. Just think about this. You know, they've got Yanni Gourde, who's signed up until the 24-25 season. He's a $5 million cap hit, 29 years old. Good addition. We've heard that he may not start the season because of an operation he just had. Jordan Eberle, as you said, he's also 5.5, 31 years old, up at the 23-24 season. I like this one. Johannes Donskoy, I've always liked him. Obviously, Colorado's lost a very good right winger, 3.9 for the next 2 years. I think that's a pretty good starting 4 that we could look at. And then when you go down the roster, I really like Mason Appleton. Of course, they took him from my Winnipeg Jets. I know you're in love with what they did for Carolina. They had a lot of good picks, but they took Morgan Geekie.
Yeah, I don't think Carolina offered them too much anyway, but still, I mean, they do have to. They have a bottom 6 they need to fill out, and an AHL team at a certain point as well. So there are going to be a few off the board kind of picks.
Well, the one I like is Colin Blackwell. I know that you really liked what he did this year. Really good kid. But there's a couple names. I'll just throw them out, like Cole Lind. Don't really know much about him. Obviously through the Vancouver Canucks. I know that we'll talk about some trades that have been done already through the Seattle Kraken. I like the Jared McCann. I don't, we're going to ask obviously James to tell us what his thoughts are, but kind of strange that you give up a 7th and a prospect and, you lose him. I know they didn't want to lose Hull. I see Paul Rosen. I know he's feeling okay, but listen, disagree, boys, on Oleksiak. He's been with few teams. He's nothing special, average at best. But you know what? It is the Seattle Kraken, Paul, and you're going to need average. Can't all be, obviously, the players that they're going after. I think what they've done is they've created what Paul said, pretty average team. It's an average team. When you look at these names, there's nobody that jumps off the page who, some of the superstars that we saw, like the Landeskogs of the world. You mentioned Ovechkin. We know the Carey Price thing. They didn't go and make a huge splash. Right? Even with Dreger, I love Dreger. We don't know. He's only played 38 games in the National Hockey League, even though last year was a really good year. We don't know where that is. They may still have a plan, Jordan, in the back of their minds. We got $41 million. We don't have to go and break the bank. We could trade a couple of these guys and then go after a couple of players, that goal scorer that you're talking about, another rock solid defenseman, and of course, as you say, a goaltender that they may need down the road. They've got a good tandem. It's not a great tandem. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I on the tandem, I think this will be good in another year or two. Like Vanacek's still young. You got Decord, who's another prospect coming up. So in a few years, I think a couple of these other guys like Cole Lind, who become a little older, a little more experienced, a little more time in the league, And I think Seattle in a year or two could be where Vegas is now, or even close to that. And you saw how Vegas was able to bring in Mark Stone, Max Pacioretty, all these guys, Pietrangelo, and it's because they had all this money coming out of their expansion draft.
Yeah, and Ron Francis did a great job. The only disappointment I had is kind of anticlimactic the way that all presented itself yesterday. And we got Brad Barco piping in. Thanks, Brad, for joining us. Bart's and Rosey show. Don't forget Sunday night, 8:00. Make sure you check that out. The decor I think is pretty good. Paul, even though Alexiak's average, you still got to look at some of these guys really quickly. Again, if Giordano stays there, you've got obviously stability and a veteran player. I really like Adam Larson. I don't know what Edmonton's going to do after losing him. They certainly have to do something. And if Vince Dunn, that's a good core. It's not going to be the be all end all, but it's certainly good. And of course, Brad saying, don't forget it's not done. He likes Everly. Of course, Brad, you would know him from your Edmonton days. I liked him in Edmonton. I think there's more in him. I think he's got a good upside. He's only 31. The next 2 or 3 years are going to be really important for Seattle to lay the foundation. And I think he's going to be one of those players that can do that.
Yeah, and I think he was in that Barry Trotz system that's really defensively heavy, right? So I think if he comes out of that and he comes back to a little more that game he played in Edmonton, a little more free-flowing offense. You can take a little more chances here and there. I think Jordan Eberle was a great pick. It was either going to be him or Josh Bailey, but I think at the end of the day that they're a pretty similar player.
Hey, you are watching Gouche Overtime, brought to you by the good people of the Hockey News and, of course, Sports Illustrated. And we're on a bunch of great platforms, and now we've got Gouche Live Productions. Jordan, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we just launched our Gouche Live Productions Facebook and YouTube pages. It'll kind of become our central hub for essentially all the other shows that aren't really Gouche Live. So Gouche Live will continue to be on our own Facebook page and our own YouTube page. But Gouche Live Productions, that'll be where you'll watch the Rosen Report, the Journey with Bart's and Rosey, the Footy Express as well. So we have a lot of content coming out, and this is just a good way to have it all in one place for everyone to find.
Yeah, and don't forget, we've got the new show coming out called Concussed every Tuesday night. I know it's going to be on Fired Up Network, but we also be showing it on Gouche Live Productions. So it's really exciting that, Rosie's been doing a great job with Brad. They're getting great guests, and we just want to make sure everybody can go to a hub. So thank you for organizing that. Listen, just before we bring up James, and we're going to talk about you have to talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs and what they're doing right now. But let's just wrap it up on the Seattle Kraken right now. They did a Kraken of a job to do what they're doing. How many times can we say Kraken on this show? But what type of a team do you think they're looking at? Is Ron Francis going to be the identity of this team is going to be a defensive team, or are they going to be a run and gun, very similar to Las Vegas, when they're going to be a little bit more of a show? What do they need to be in their first season? Is it okay to lose a game 7-6, or are they going to be a very defensive tight, like what you said, what goes on in the New York Islanders?
I think they are going to be a defensive team. It might not quite be to the extent of the Islanders, but they do have some offensive weapons. Like Jonas Donskoy is a great player. And like some of these guys are like just haven't really had a chance, or they haven't been like on the first line, so you don't hear about them a ton. Yeah. But some of these are good players, and I'm excited for October 23rd, Seattle Kraken's first game against the Vancouver Canucks.
So that's going to be the rivalry. Some people are comparing it to Calgary, Edmonton, Toronto, Montreal. I wouldn't go that far yet. Give it a year to sink in. And certainly, I love Jonas Donskoy's name. I just think he should be in a boys band. I just love it. All right, listen. Speaking of boys bands, we haven't had this guy on. He took a little bit of a vacation, overworked. The kid's been overworked. I love Donskoy. Hey, Paul, why don't we get some T-shirts? Gouche Live and the Rosey Report. Love Donskoy.
I love Donskoy.
Hey, listen, let's bring him up. Speaking of boys bands, James R. Us.
Hey, guys. Hopefully my mic and camera can hold up. I'm recording from my phone here today, so we'll see.
That's all right. Listen, we haven't seen you for a while. I know that, we had a great season. The Weekend Warriors kind of worn you out because I think at the end of it, we did about 10 shows and I won 9 and you and your buddy Ryan were, I think, yeah, I gave you a victory, and we're looking forward to bringing that back next year, but it's going to be a little bit different because Jordan's going to be on my team.
Oh, for sure. You're going to need the help because I think it was actually 9-1 for Ryan and I, but we'll see.
Well, you know what? I'll get Jordan to look back at the tapes and we'll get there. Hey, listen, of course, we brought you up today because of the fact that we're hearing about the Hyman story. Zach obviously is not going to be back, or it doesn't look like he's going to be back unless there's a miracle. I heard the general manager today talk about it, saying we did everything we could to try and make him an offer, but we have to be realistic and we have to be financially responsible to our ice hockey club. Well, yeah, you've already given away 4 $10 million contracts. It's going to be tough to come up with it. I think it's a good fit. I think he'll be absolutely perfect. The only problem is you can't play defense for the Edmonton Oilers or save a puck. I think he's going to be perfect. What are your thoughts, James, on that particular situation? Because we know how big of a Leafs fan you are.
Yeah, for McDavid, he's probably going to get a guy who's going to go in the corners for him and get a bunch of pucks for him in front of the net. So I think if you're Edmonton, it's a perfect fit. Obviously, you had Cassian playing with McDavid. Might not have been completely ideal. I think a guy like Hyman is going to be perfect, though. And if you're the Leafs, you don't have the money to be paying this guy 8 years, $5 million per year, which is probably what we're looking at in Edmonton. It looks like it's going to be a 7 or an 8 year deal worth about $40 million. So if you're the Leafs, again, you just don't have that money to spend. Edmonton does have that money to spend. So in the front half of this contract, you're going to be getting your worth, but in the back half of this contract, it's probably going to be one to bite you a bit, because in 8 years, who knows what's going to be going on with Hyman. He's a hardworking player, and these hardworking guys seem to get worn down and injured. So I think that, in the near future, it's going to be a great thing for Edmonton, but the Leafs obviously aren't willing to commit to that much money, to that much term, which makes sense because of the contracts they've handed out in the past. And I think if Kyle Dubas signed Hyman to a $5+ million deal for 7 or 8 years, Leafs fans would probably be calling for his head. So if they could have got him for a little bit of a more favorable number, I would have seen it for sure. But yeah, it's tough to see your hardest working player go. But I mean, I guess that's the business. So.
You know what? I don't want to say I told you so and I'm right, but if we go back in time in the tapes and we talked about players, there was a time where I said, out of all the players on the Toronto Maple Leafs, the guy I liked the most was Hyman. He was kind of that glue that kept everything together, a very hard worker. I even said it over a Marner. If I had to choose right now, I would be going with Hyman because he's a heart and soul guy. And you can't I know you're saying, oh God, you need the goal scorers and that, but you need to have grit and honesty, and that guy has honesty bleeding from him. So, and I think your buddy Rosen's just throwing a little dagger in. Leafs are in trouble, James. I'm not sure I'm going to go as far as saying Leafs are in trouble. I think they're in a little bit of disarray again. They got to try and figure out where all the missing parts are. So I want to go to you. Are you happy with management and what they're doing? Obviously, the big signing of Jared McCann, and people are kind of excited. I like Jared McCann. I watched the playoffs, and he was one of their better players for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And I was kind of shocked to know, but I know, Jordan, you're going to say, but they wanted to, Justin Holl, they wanted to protect them. But I think they should have moved it so that if anybody was going, it would have been a Carefoot, because I like Jared McCann. I want to hear your comments on that, James.
Yeah, I think Kyle Dubas's mentality and the Leafs' mentality in this situation was, you're basically giving up a 7th round pick and Philip Hallander, which was the prospect they traded to Pittsburgh for McCann, basically in the sense that you're giving up these 2 assets so that you don't get touched in the expansion draft. Because Jared McCann, Alex Kerfoot, they're similar players. They're both kind of like middle 6 guys that are quick and can handle the puck. So I think it would have been nice to obviously keep McCann, but the priority was to hold on to Justin Holl, who is the right-handed defenseman, younger guy with a good AAV money-wise. So I think that obviously it would have been great to keep McCann, but a lot of teams lost quite a bit more than just a 7th round pick and a mid-level prospect. So I think if you're the Leafs, it makes sense. And going forward, basically, I think Dubas just didn't want to lose any of his current guys and was taking a chance that either Seattle was going to take Kerfoot or McCann, which I think he was more than fine with because the other player is very similar. So,
listen, I know we're going to get you on. Sorry, Jordan.
So at the end of the day, the Leafs had the top scorer in the league. They finished first in their division, and just a couple of things fell apart. And I think this team's good enough to just go back and rehash it and try it again next year. Maybe they do need to find someone to fill up Hyman's spot, but it'll be tough.
Hey, but Jordan, you did mention they've got $9 million in cap space. I know they have to sign a few UFAs, but they at least have some movement, right? And I want to end it with you, James, on this. Talk to us. You touched upon some teams that lost a little more. Who comes out and says, "Wow, why did they do that"? Is there any player that one of these teams have led up that have gone in the expansion draft, like a Giordano? I know it says here, Flames dealt devastating blow at a crucial time as the Kraken snagged Giordano. He actually, in his talk yesterday, was kind of shocked. Like it wasn't him saying, "Hey, I'm 37, I'm going to a new opportunity." He's kind of thinking he was going to probably end his career there. He probably felt slighted. Is there anybody on on this expansion draft, James, that you're just saying, scratching your head saying, really?
I think for the most part, Seattle played it pretty safe. They could have obviously picked up Carey Price. They could have picked up, Tarasenko. They could have picked up some of these big names, but they stressed salary cap importance and wanting to be flexible. Obviously, they still have about $40 million in cap, which is huge. People are saying, their forward group doesn't look great, but you have $40 million to spend. That's an entire top line right there, plus more. So I think they're in a great position. And I don't think they really took too many bad contracts on. I think they were really smart. And I'm trying to think back, and not one really even comes to mind. People were saying they might take JVR or Schwartz or Tarasenko or some of these bigger name guys. But then again, they kind of stayed low with all their picks. But I expect them to be making a big splash in free agency because they're going to spend the money, I believe. So,
James, I do want to remind you, your Toronto Maple Leafs also had $40 million, and they still have not won a Stanley Cup. So I know I know we all get hard on the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I'm not throwing daggers at you because my Winnipeg Jets aren't looking any much better right at this particular moment. Hasn't been a lot of movement there. But certainly they're not in as bad a position as people are making out. Them losing Hyman hurts, but you also take them off the books. And now you got to try and find that. I don't want to call it a diamond in the rough, but there are going to be some UFAs out there RFA. No, it'll be UFAs that they probably won't buy. That I don't know if UFA, RFA, they're all the same to me. They just cost more. They'll be able to. They've got money to throw at it, and they're not scared to make a move or make a trade. So I don't think the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to be in as bad a shape coming into the new season. I just think they've lost a lot of character. Final point to you, James. Are you excited over the next couple of weeks to see how it really plays out, this expansion draft? Because the Las Vegas Knights made 6 deals in the 12 days after. So there is going to be a bunch of movement.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I don't know if Seattle will be as aggressive as Vegas. Obviously, they got Pacioretty, Stone, Tuck, they got Pietrangelo, Martinez. They went out and got all of these guys. So I think Seattle will still end up going out and probably getting a number 1 center because they don't really have that. And Yanni Gourde, who you could say could be maybe their number 1 center, likely isn't even going to be there to start the year. So I think for sure they will be getting a number 1 center, and they'll be getting another player to play on that top line, which will basically just move everyone down, which will give them more depth. But obviously super excited for the Leafs. Yeah, they do have $9+ million in cap. So I'm curious, maybe not so excited to see how they spend it. Hopefully they spend it in a good way. But $9 million, they can obviously add a lot with $9 million. So I guess we'll see, and we'll hope that Kyle Dubas can make me happy.
Hey, James Glutline from the Weekend Warriors with the Gouche Live Productions. Can't thank you enough, buddy. We'll be seeing you on this weekend as we talk about the draft and then obviously free agency going off on July the 28th. Thanks for joining us, James.
All right, see you guys.
See ya.
We didn't seem that disappointed.
No, I mean, You can never really tell with Leafs fans. There's always something. There's a deeper meaning to everything they say.
Well, and because he's with the Weekend Warriors and part of Gouche Live production, you and I, along with Paul, we've kind of calmed him down a little bit. Got him, kind of get that Val Silva in him where he doesn't get too, well, then when the Portuguese blood comes out, then we're in trouble. But, a lot of Leafs fans are already throwing, and Paul brought it up like, he should take a haircut. He should take a haircut. He can give him some break. No, why? Why would he have to give a haircut to play hockey? They only have, listen, God forsake, knock on wood. He could be like Weber. Right now, Weber could be done. Shea Weber could be done. They say he's probably not going to play next year. Is that a ploy? Don't know. But I think, if he can't, at his age specifically, if he doesn't come back next year, it's tough to come back after a long delay when you're that age.
Yeah, and it is tough to see because Mark Bergevin's comment was he's definitely going to miss this year, and he's probably going to be done for his career as well. It's just it's sad to see because a Canadian hero, Canadian legend for Team Canada in the Olympics, and a great captain, a great leader on the ice. It's going to be tough to see him go.
And you saw all the guys go to him after that loss. And I've actually got goosebumps right now. I don't know why, but I love the guy. Heart and soul, he just showed so much character through the playoffs. And James just put up, Bergevin has said, it's like he's done for his career. I'm not going to go that far right now. Listen, great things can happen to great people, and he is a great people. Let's just go through some of the things that are going on in the National Hockey League right now, and we will see you tomorrow. We're doing the roundtable with Paul. No, that's Friday. Tomorrow is my buddy Stephen Ellis. We're going to be talking about entry draft. Is Owen Powers the natural number one pick? We'll be hearing that from Stephen Ellis tomorrow. And on Saturday, we'll have a roundtable. I'm not sure, through your swimming and your cooking and your hiking, if you're going to be available. But that's one of the things we're going to talk about at that time. Let's get into the fact that there's some things that have gone on. Before you go through your list, the one that really piques my interest, and I want to hear your comment on it, the Bruins and Taylor Hall seem to be making significant progress. Is that the right fit?
Yeah, and I think the deal is rumored to be around, I think $4 million a year, $5 million a year, just out somewhere around that for 4 years. And Taylor Hall he has said he's wanted to be there. So I think this is a good deal for both sides. Taylor Hall, he's shown he can still play well. He played well for the Bruins last year, even having a terrible start in Buffalo. But I like that move for them.
Hey, listen, and a first rounder, a guy like that, we're talking about him at an age where, this should be his most dynamic and productive years of his career. And we're hearing, numbers for Hyman versus Taylor Hall. Wow. How you can just think about, if you could turn back time and think about, put Zach Hyman up against a Taylor Hall. When you looked at him equal one-on-one, you would think that Taylor Hall would be, at the pinnacle parts of his career. So it just shows you, and that's why Hyman, take the money when you can get it if they're throwing it at you. All right, let's get into the final little parts here. The Detroit Red Wings make a splash, which I'm surprised that Carolina would do what they've done.
Yeah, it makes no sense to me either. But Carolina traded Alex Nedeljkovic to Detroit for Jonathan Bernier and a third-round pick. Nedeljkovic was incredible this year. It was awesome to watch in the playoffs.
You and I were both shocked. I couldn't even say his name as usual. And I was still saying no, he's not in. And then you're saying, yes, he is in. And I thought, wow, he played incredible.
Yeah, that Nashville series was some of the best hockey I've seen, and it was a really fast series. And Nedeljkovic was making 40, 50 saves a night, and he was incredible in that series. But on the other side, with Jonathan Bernier, you were getting the band back together with the Jonathan Bernier and James Reimer tandem out of Toronto.
How did that work in Toronto?
Exactly. So who knows how it'll work in Carolina, because Peter Mrazek is also a free agent this year.
Yeah.
So maybe this is a sign that Carolina is going after Mrazek instead of Nedeljkovic.
Hey,
who knows?
yeah, hey, Paul, if you're still on, I would love to hear a comment from you on what's going on in the goaltender situation there. The Red Wings pick up a good one. I think that's a really smart move for them. I want to go to Calgary. There's obviously something that you're going to tell us about the expansion draft and what Seattle's done, but it does state here the Flames dealt this devastating blow to Giordano. I don't know if you saw the press or his comments afterwards. That didn't really, it wasn't resounding saying, "Wow, I'm really excited to be here in Seattle." I think he didn't pick his words right. I think he should have, left that for another time and said, "Wow, I'm here. I'm really excited." It didn't come over like that to me, unless you saw something different.
Yeah, and I think it's just the initial shock, right? I mean, you find out a couple hours earlier, you probably found out through Twitter that you've been picked up by another team,
True.
and like I can't imagine what that'd be like, because he's devoted most of his career to Calgary. There's a captain there, great leader there, great guy in the community.
But it was rumored way before that. Like, it's not like it just popped out of the air and said, "Oh my God," right? He knew something was there. If it would have been like what you said, he just read it on Twitter, I would agree. But just I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just want, he's probably touted as a captain for that team. Here he is as a captain. He could have picked his words and I love the guy, don't get me wrong, but I just thought maybe it was a little bit of a off the cuff statement that people can maybe look at in a negative way. And he's such a good guy.
Well, I mean, it's just another thing. I think it's just a guy who's showing a little personality, and I see no issue with it.
Okay.
It's how he feels, and I'm all for the players speaking their mind.
Well, I know you are with our little buddy Kucherov. All right, let's move on to some other news. Obviously, with the Calgary Flames, they made a trade for a draft pick.
Yeah, you mean Tyler Pitlick?
Yes.
Yeah. He was a pick from Arizona in the expansion draft.
Yep.
I wouldn't look too much into it. Like, yeah, he's a good little player, but he's not a franchise altering player by any means.
All right, and then of course the Oilers are needing to shore up on their defense. There's talk about obviously Tyson or Barry. What do you know on that?
Yeah, so since Larson was picked up by Seattle, Edmonton knew that they had to go full steam ahead into Tyson Barrie, because he's probably the only guy they'll be able to get before they go back into free agency. And they can't really find a middle ground on the terms right now. The team wants 3 years. Barrie wants 4 years, just to get a little more financial stability. But it's just one of the things we'll have to monitor. As things come out, we'll be able to report that. But it's still up in the air right now with him.
Well, there's a name out there that just happened. The Florida Panthers bought out Keith Yandel. There's a good quality defenseman. I like the guy. Yeah. I think he still has a pretty good upside. I think he was bought out like for $10 million, so I'm sure a team could make a good deal. Would Edmonton look at him?
I think they need someone a little more responsibly defensive. Just because you already have the Tyson Barrie there, who's going to be your puck moving guy. He's going to play on the power play. I don't think that was the Keith Yandel's big criticism in Florida, and why he was scratched in the playoffs as well. Just not defensively reliable enough.
What about Ryan Suter out of Minnesota?
Yeah, I like that pick. I mean, why not, right? I just don't know if Edmonton can afford him and be able to fill out their bottom six.
Yeah, I'm just throwing names out for you. All right, anything else that you've got on the wire while we're talking here?
I'm just keeping my eye on the Rangers right now. Every insider has said that the Rangers are the team to watch right now. There's a lot brewing in for a trade, whether it's Jack Eichel, whether it's Giordano, whether it's Vince Dunn.
Who would you like to see there? Who would you like to see there?
I think Vince Dunn. He's a good offensive defenseman, good defensively as well, but he provided a lot in St. Louis.
Why did St. Louis give up on him? Like he's a good. He's only 24 years old.
I'm not entirely sure. I have to look at their protection list again, but yeah, just a couple of those guys kind of squeaked out as well. Just missing the cut for that list.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, you get back to, obviously, I know you're jumping in the pool. Make sure you watch. There are freshwater sharks. I've told you that. Just be careful. Or if they're not sharks, they could be snakes. I'm not sure. Jordan, all the way in Victoria, thanks for taking some time out of your busy lounging time that you're out there. We'll be talking tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, Jordan LaRoche, all the way from Victoria. Hey, what a great day. There's more to come. Get ready. Tomorrow, obviously, Friday afternoon, entry draft. We've got our good buddy Stephen Ellis is going to join us. And then Saturday, as usual, we're having the roundtable. Paul Rosen will be here. Scott Taylor will be here. And we'll be talking about not only what we've heard on the entry draft, the expansion draft, what we're thinking is going on out in the whole NHL. And there's still lots more to happen. Hey, you've been watching Gouche Live right here, Overtime, on the Sports Network, of course, the Hockey News, and Sports Illustrated.
You've been listening to Gouche Live with your host, Kerry Goulet, better known as The Gouche, brought to you by the Hockey News and Sports Illustrated.